Good evening, my viewers. This is the latest edition of the George Ondek Show. I'm very proud tonight to have a feature that I do from time to time. I get you to know people in the media, and somebody who's been in the media, in print media in northern Westchester for over 25 years is Rick Pezzullo. He's the editor and ace reporter on the Examiner newspaper. How are you doing?
How you doing, George? Nice to be here.
Uh, Rick, a little bit about your career. How did you get started out in newspapers, in local newspapers?
Yeah, well, it's a funny story. When I was about 11, 12 years old, I wanted to be a sports writer, really to cover the Yankees, because I'm a big Yankee fan, and I always thought, what better way to make a living than to cover your favorite baseball team? So I was covering I was actually attending my brother's baseball game in Yorktown, and I happened to notice this woman on the sidelines taking pictures, and something possessed me to go talk to her. And I said, "How do you get involved in writing and this and that?" And she said, "Hey, why don't you write up this game, and I'll give it to my editor, who was Nancy Haggerty at the North County News at the time." And she said, "I'll see what she thinks." So I went home, and my dad helped me write, my first article, and I submitted it. The next thing I know, I was covering all Lakeland sports throughout my whole high school career. So I made a little money, made about $10 an article while I was in high school. And
what newspaper was that?
That was the North County News.
Oh, very fine newspaper.
So I did that through high school and through college. And
did you major in journalism?
I did major in journalism. It's funny, at first I was majoring in accounting because I was very good in accounting in Lakeland High School. I took a course. And I said, this is a piece of cake. So at Pace, I wasn't sure which way to go, so I took accounting first, and I didn't really study that much because I thought I knew it all, and I ended up getting a C in the class, and I said, wait a minute, this may not be it. So I switched to journalism, and I became sports editor of the campus paper. Then I became editor of the campus paper.
What was that called? Do you recall?
The Prestonian.
And what year did you graduate from Pace?
87.
Rick, you don't realize that some of our career is similar. I didn't go into journalism, but my first year of college under the GI Bill, disabled GI Bill, I was taking accounting.
Really?
But I said, I'm not a numbers person. I'm more of a people person, so I took marketing. And I graduated from Pace in the class of 74 after 2 years at Westchester.
Wow. It's funny, recently I drove by the campus to show my niece where my wife, because I met my wife at school, and I showed her the campus, and I was startled to see that they had torn down the journalism department and tore down made the whole campus like a law place now. So I wouldn't even recognize it. I was kind of like, when you feel really sad something's not there anymore. I was like, oh my God. But anyway, that's where I got the bug, and when I graduated, I didn't know what I was going to do, and luckily an opening was in the news department in North County News, so I started covering the town of Cortland. So at that time it was a hotbed for political stuff, and it was really a crazy beat. So I did that, then I moved up to be assistant editor, then I became managing editor in 96. And so I was the editor for 10 years there. And then I left in 2006, went to work for the county for a couple of years, and I decided this is not for me, and the Examiner was looking for somebody, and I feel like I came back home. I'm still covering the same area, working with some of the same people that I worked with at North County News, Martin Wilbur and Adam Stone and Ray
Very
Gallagher,
fine people.
Neil Rentz, Paul Carty, our sales guy. We all kind of reborn at the Examiner. So,
Rick, the importance of print media. I hear from many people, print media is going to go out. It's just all electronic stuff now. Why is it important to have a print media, especially for local news?
Well, I think you need to have somebody keeping an eye on your government, your schools, just anything that's going on. I'm amazed that on Tuesdays is when we deliver the papers to local businesses. As we're putting the paper down, people are picking it up.
It's very popular.
And a lot of people say to me, this is a great paper. we get more from this paper than the Journal News, and people just eat it up. They just love it because there's such a absence of local coverage. There's you see a lot of these online news things, but all they're doing is throwing up little blurbs. They're not really going in depth, doing investigative reporting.
What I don't like about online reporting, and people take as fact, people who aren't journalists or newspaper people, Joe Schmo can put out a phony headline and say this was this about somebody,
right,
and doesn't have to own up with it his own name, and you will get people quoting, "Oh, I saw that online. It's true. This certain politician is a crook. I read it online."
Right.
That's terrible.
I think one of the advantages that we have at the Examiner is we have a lot of credibility. Because
Yes.
people know me from my North County News days. Some people know me when I was a high school kid, or even younger, playing in the SOAC, or I grew up in the area, so people know me from when I was a little kid. They know Martin Wilbur. They know us. Then they
Yes.
trust us. So when they see something in the paper, they know it's true. We're not making
Rick,
stuff up.
in full disclosure, I must tell my audience, I know Mr. Pezzullo very well. I've been a community activist in the Peekskill area for over 25 years.
Yes, you
I
have.
think that's as long as you've been writing, you've been writing since your high school
Yep.
days. But I really realized the importance of a local newspaper, and I'll give you a couple of examples. When I was in Vietnam, the Herald-Statesman, which is the Journal News now, I wrote an article for them. And it was my first experience in print media. They put it on the front page. A younger soldier describes the enemy. And I supported President Johnson. And we were a bunch of brave Americans over there who could be killed at any time. I could not believe it. I got a response. My wife got a response from the White House. An assistant to President Johnson told him to write a letter thanking me for my service. But getting back to local news, Peekskill Herald, I'm very sure you're familiar with.
It's funny, I actually worked for them
Kathy
too.
Daly.
Kathy Daly and Deb
Virginia,
Malone.
and
Deb Malone.
Deb Malone was with
Yeah,
that.
she was. She was one of the.
And there was a woman named
Regina Clarkin.
And again, I'm throwing my experiences in now. I'm up in Peekskill 2 or 3 years. I walk into City Hall. I says, I'm a Vietnam vet. I'm a homeowner here. I'd like to have my property tax exemption. You know what I was told, Rick? We don't recognize the Vietnam War, and we don't give a property exemption to that.
Wow.
That infuriated me so much. I walked across the street to the Peekskill Herald, told them my story. They had headline and my picture, Peekskill resident denied, Vietnam vet denied benefits. Do you know the power of the local press? A month later, all Vietnam vets in Peekskill were getting their
wow, nice.
But this is why a local newspaper is important.
No,
To bring
absolutely.
out the local news. You also know I've been an advocate for lower taxes, and I've been fighting for 25 years. And if newspapers were not there to cover that, the local politicians, there's no constraints on them.
Well, that's what I see now, because there's only so much of us out there now. There's us, and there's a few other prints, but not many. So when you go to a meeting, you don't see any coverage.
I almost wish Peekskill had a print media again. Our city does not have. Your paper covers Peekskill.
Yeah, but it's
in
very
Portland,
difficult.
New
Like, for
York.
example, we have a very small staff, so I have to cover like 6 towns, along with 7 or 8 school districts. So and a lot of the meetings are held at the same time, the same day. So you can only be in one place at one time. So a lot of times I'll end up like watching the meetings the next day on the computer, which is a great innovation that they have that now. I wish all the towns would do it. A lot of them don't, like Cortland and Yorktown. They refuse to print put their work sessions on the TV.
So does Yorktown.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I give
Peekskill
Peekskill
I
credit.
will say very positive about Peekskill, and I live in Peekskill. It costs a little money, but we get to see our committee of the whole meetings. We get to see our planning board meetings. We get to see our historic board meetings,
Yeah.
and it's open government.
Sure, absolutely.
When it comes up to a resolution that they're voting on in town hall, and I go to almost every meeting, as you know, as a community activist, I know what they're going to vote on with the agenda items, and I know a criticism has come out with, oh, people will be grandstanding if we put it on TV. That is not true. It's open government. And
yeah, absolutely. I know Yorktown, they have a big problem with that. A lot of times, some of the councilmen will go to the meeting and not even see what they're voting on until 5 minutes before.
The councilman?
Yeah.
It's bad enough when the people.
Yeah.
Isn't there a public law that the agenda items are supposed to be publicized like 48 hours or 72?
I mean, there's a lot of ways that they could sidestep in and get around
Don't
it.
they
but
add stuff at the last minute?
sometimes they add things. They can do that. They call special meetings. The other day, Yorktown called a special meeting, but didn't say what the meeting was about. It just said holding a special meeting in town hall this time, but nobody knew what it was about.
Rick, I don't even like executive sessions. They
No.
claim they have to go into executive sessions to discuss personnel matters.
Or legal.
Or
And they
legal
get around it by
matters.
not even saying what it is. They're really supposed to tell you what that personnel is, or
Rick, I know as a newsman you're not supposed to give your personal opinions or your personal political views on things, but I've been following presidential elections for over 60 years. I saw Harry Truman as a little boy,
Wow.
as a whistle stop in Yonkers, and John F. Kennedy, and shook hands with him.
I don't think I was born then. But
No, no. How were you born during the '61 Yankees?
I
by
was
the
not.
way,
I wasn't.
I was there. My wife and I were in $1.30 seats up above, watching Maris hit his 61st
Wow.
homer, and I
Wow.
wish I had $3.50, because I might have caught that ball. It landed
Yeah.
right below us, and a guy named Sal Durante caught it.
Wow.
And that was the greatest baseball team I've ever seen in my life, the '61 Yankees.
Wow.
And they're going to honor Roger Maris October 1st this year.
Ah, all right.
And how about those Yankees this year, Mr. Sanchez?
Well, I mean, he looks good, but I think the Yankees have been teasing us all year, and they're just going to come up short, unfortunately. But at least they kept us interested most of the year, at least.
And they've revived interest in the last month or so when they went for a more youth movement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not them 10-year bonus babies, I'll call them.
Yeah, I know. It's Yankee fans are spoiled. They want to have a winner every year, but I think the Cubs are going to do it this year.
What
I'm
about
rooting for the
our
Cubs.
Mets? How about the Mets?
I
at
don't
their
care about the
hometown?
I don't think they're going to make it either.
No.
Not enough pitching. They're
They look
falling
kind
apart.
of sad the last 3 days versus Atlanta.
I think they're going to get in the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to last too long.
And what's with the modern ball players that they fall apart? We had guys like Don Drysdale or Bob Gibson, or the guy the Mets pitched away, traded
Tom
away.
Seaver?
No, the other one who had five.
Nolan
Nolan
Ryan.
Ryan, 5,000 strikeouts,
Right.
7 no-hitters. He pitched till he was 45 years old. Pitched 12 innings, sometimes 15 innings.
Well, the Mets have one of those. Bartolo Colon, look at him.
He is amazing.
Look at that guy.
He is, and he's won 15 games, but it really should be 18 or 19. Their relief
The
people.
Yankees never should have got rid of him, I didn't think.
No, well, they all make mistakes. The Mets shouldn't have got rid of Murphy, right?
Well, he wasn't doing that with the Mets, so.
But it was a sample in the playoffs when he hit 6 home runs in 6 games.
Yeah, I know, but he also made the error that cost him, too. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But let's get back to local reporting. The importance of a local newspaper again. You talk more on it, Rick.
Well, I mean, for example, like this weekend, there are so many local events going on. And if we weren't around, who would know about them? Who would get to support, the Chamber of Commerce, Support Connection. Now that's a big group coming up with Support a Walk, October 2nd at FDR Park. I mean, we've been supporting them for 20 years. And Kathy Quinn tells me all the time, she credits us a lot.
Isn't Kathy Quinn a wonderful
Oh, absolutely.
person? The head of
Everybody
Support a
there does
Walk.
amazing
By the way,
job.
I'm putting an ad in your newspapers supporting
All
Support
right.
a Walk.
It's unbelievable. That is one of those events that if you only want to pick one community thing to go to,
Yes.
go to that. You will feel so inspired, so
It helps
uplifting.
women
It's
with
unbelievable.
breast cancer.
It's because they don't only honor like the survivors, the ones that fought the fight, maybe didn't make it, but the people still come out and remember them. It's an amazing,
Rick,
amazing
I'll
thing.
give you another one that's excellent. Let me say now, the dogs, Guiding Eyes for the Blind,
Yep.
and I just did one. You know, I do my public access
Mhm.
show, and I go out on the road sometimes.
Mhm.
Adopt a greyhound.
Mm.
Do you know that a greyhound, after he's run all his life, if he's not adopted,
Mhm.
they put him to the glue factory like an
Really?
old horse?
Wow.
Yeah. And there's a lady, I think it's Adopt a Greyhound,
Mhm.
has adopted 1,600 over the last 16 years and got them adopted.
Wow.
And they're such a beautiful dog. And I did this at Solaris Health Club, and the Harlem Wizards were there.
Ah, nice.
And I'm going to put an ad in your paper
Mhm.
promoting that show because I want everybody to see it.
Yeah.
It shows how good the Harlem Wizards do for the
Mhm.
youth of Northern Westchester. They have a basketball camp all summer.
Mhm.
And these poor dogs are going to be adopted.
Wow.
And you know my issues from community activism on four-legged friends
Absolutely.
and web-footed friends.
Well, one example of, I think, the power of the local press is there was recently a controversy in Peekskill about there was a Supreme Court Officers Association. They had 3 members that got
Yes.
killed 9/11 at the World Trade Center. And one of their members happened to be walking one day at the Riverfront Green and noticed that, they have a plaque with all the people's names on it, and noticed these 3 gentlemen's names wasn't there. So the treasurer of the association contacted the city and said, hey, can we get the names on the plaque? And they got some resistance from the fire department because they said, well, this is really just supposed to honor, Samuel Keys, and, we spend the money for that. There's no room. So it got blown up into a big controversy. And finally, one of the local attorneys got involved, and they resolved it all. So they ended up dedicating a bench for them right next to the memorial. And the treasurer contacted me and said, listen, I want to thank you for the coverage, because I think if it wasn't for you, maybe this wouldn't have happened.
And
So,
Bob-
even though it's not, we don't write stories to get praised, it feels good that maybe by giving some publicity to this, these 3 individuals and their families got their day, and there they
You
are.
do have power. You and other local press, with myself, I'll throw myself into it again, with my issue with an ex-mayor in Peekskill on a Canadian geese issue
Uh-huh.
that seemed to hang around at Riverfront Green, and some people didn't like it because they would step in the goose stew.
Right.
And they wanted to put in a $250 fine. They wanted to have them killed. I
Right.
think killed even.
Right, right.
I think they did that on the county level. They
Yeah, they did.
They gassed 570 Canadian
They
geese.
did, yeah.
And after we ran, you covered this in the Journal News, and I got a lot of coverage, and they backed down
Yeah.
from that. They says, well, maybe we could have ate all the eggs and keep
You'll
the
be surprised how fast officials back down from public pressure.
And the same thing I found with something I'm very else active in, keeping taxes down. That unless there's somebody out there to cover local events, we just seen down in New Rochelle, the part-time mayor gave himself and the council a big raise. If you got people talking at council meetings against it, you have local coverage.
Right.
Local politicians listen to that.
Well, I think it's also helped that, when the governor put in the, 2%, tax cap kind of thing, it kind of got all the officials to kind of look at all these
And that was a
unneeded
good
expenses.
thing,
Yeah, I think
by
it
the
was.
way.
He got criticized for it, but you notice the school budgets now, they're not going up, like 10%, 7% like they were in the past. Now they're keeping it very even, or
Why
even.
do some politicians feel if it's not their money they can spend? It's like them eating at the trough while people can't pay their taxes.
Right.
I mean, it's not fair sometimes. They don't think.
Yeah, I think a lot of the local officials around here, though, I think they're very cognizant of.
Yes.
I think Peekskill, I think Mayor
Peeks-
Catalina's done a good job with that. Linda Puglisi in Cortland.
Oh, Linda's
they've
done
kind
an
of been,
excellent
Yeah,
job,
they've
yeah.
kind of set the standard for how you're supposed to run government at a lean budget.
Lean.
But there's others that they'll just try to still nickel and dime people to death, and it's a shame. It's a shame.
And there's another thing. People worry about taxes, but fines and fees are another form of taxation, wouldn't you say, Rick?
Yeah, I would say so.
If you start raising all kinds of fees on people in a town, or you strictly enforce speeding laws, parking things, that's
yeah,
sort of like a
it'll be
fine on
interesting to
people,
see
too.
how people react to the new meters in Peekskill. I understand that now, instead of being able to put in 10 cents for 5 minutes, you have to spend a minimum of $1,
I've
for the
heard
same
that.
time. So I don't know how that's
And
going to
they
go
call
over.
that so-called smart meters.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
How
people are.
smart is it for a town, and I live in Peekskill, to have meters up there that charge you $1 right off the bat, when people can go and shop in Cortland or Yorktown, and they don't have to worry about getting a parking ticket. They don't have to worry about paying $1 an hour or $1 for 5 minutes to go into City Hall to pay
Yeah,
their
it
taxes.
does seem very
or
excessive.
bills.
I don't understand it.
I
but
understand the mayor did something good. He's suggested to the council at the last meeting, as they're putting this in, can we give an hour free, program that in? And they're looking into
Actually,
that
they
now.
do that in some town that I go to often. They have that. It's either 20 minutes or half hour
Well,
for
that's
free.
good, yeah.
I think it's Terrytown, perhaps, where you can, which is a good thing. I mean, maybe they need the money that they generate. I don't know how much money they generate from the meters, but hopefully it goes to a good cause, whatever
And
it
you
is.
cover a lot of things like high school games and
Yeah, we have a great
soccer
sports
in
editor. Yeah, Ray
Yorktown.
Gallagher. He does an unbelievable job trying to get to everything he can.
And Martin Wilbur does a good part up in Putnam.
Yeah, well, what it is, we have 4 editions, the Examiner. So
Yeah.
I do the Northern Westchester Examiner. We have a Putnam edition. We have a
White Plains edition.
and then we have one which Martin's in charge of, which covers Chappaqua, Bedford, Mount Kisco area. That's the original Examiner.
So if people advertising in all 4, they're getting into about 100,000 homes or something? Or?
No, not
Okay,
not
well,
quite that. Like the Northern Westchester Examiner, for example, we get circulated to, I think we print about 7,500 issues a week. So, and then the Examiner's about 6,500, and Putnam. So we do about, I would say, it's probably about 20,000.
Rick, again, I wanted to get on national politics a little bit with you because
Sure.
of so much going on. Did you ever see such a bizarre campaign without saying who you're for, as the one we're
It
seeing
is,
today with the name calling?
Well, it
by-
started out very exciting, having the local guy, George Pataki, in the mix.
Oh,
Even though
would have liked to seen George get it.
I mean, I thought he was kind of a long shot from the beginning.
The R party doesn't seem to even give him a chance. 4 years ago, he was up in Maine, or wherever their convention was, and he was out the first day. But George is a good guy. He's not extreme to the right. He's more middle of the road.
Well, it seems like politicians kind of have their moment, and when they get out of that moment, they're no longer wanted, or you know what I mean. They don't have that cachet
But how
anymore.
does a man like Trump, Donald Trump, who's never been a politician before, take over a party
Well,
where even the ex-president of the United States said he's going to vote for Hillary Clinton?
I think his whole motivation going into this was he was upset with the Republican Party and the direction, and he said somebody like himself could just come in, who's not part of the establishment, and get the nomination. And he was right, which was bizarre altogether.
What I feel offended when he actually lies to the public. He says, I'm not going to accept public funds, but
Right.
somebody I know got something in the mail the other day saying to vote for him, and what did you want to contribute? $25 up to $5,000. I thought he wasn't going to accept public funds or funds from the RNC. It seems like he's lying to the public.
I mean, I think the only reason he's even in it still is because, for whatever reason, some people don't like Hillary. They feel like she's part of the establishment. They don't like some of the whatever's happened here and there. But I think if you break them down, like in terms of their knowledge, experience, I think she has the upper hand by
And when
far.
you get a poll saying that 12% of registered Republicans now favor Hillary Clinton, Doesn't show very
I,
much.
I don't really see how he can win because of all the states, with the key states.
Uh-huh.
I don't see how he's going to win those, so he's not going to get enough. If it was a popular vote, I think he would be close. But since
You
it's an
think
electoral
the
system,
popularity was due to that TV show he had, and people
well, that's part
seem
of
to
it.
think he's funny and a nice guy?
I mean, they just know him. They know the name. They might go to Atlantic City and see all his casinos. They know who Trump is, and it seems to be a celebrity-driven.
They should see a porter that helped me take my bags down recently in Atlantic City, and he actually came out and said to me, "Don't vote for Mr. Trump." I says, "Why?"
Really?
He said that he and Mr. Icon owned this hotel for 10 years and we didn't get one raise.
Really?
But he made plenty of money, and then he declared bankruptcy.
Wow. He's kind of an enigma, Trump, because, he's raised some good kids. That was obvious, right? He's a good father.
But did he raise them? Or
Well,
did
I
he
mean,
have
none of them have anything
surrogate
bad to say about him. And, he's somewhat successful. I mean, he's been bankrupt a few times.
I don't want to get political now, but I see a lot of veterans supporting him. Did he ever serve in the military, Rick, or
No,
any of his family?
That I don't think he did. But I don't know. It's a strange, very strange election, and I think Monday's...
And blowing a boat out of the water, couldn't that lead to nuclear? Well,
he's not politically correct, let's put it that way.
All right, we really didn't want to get into national politics.
It's actually local, because Hillary is a Westchester resident.
That's right, and he's a New York resident.
I mean, people also forget this could be an historic moment. I mean, a woman president, who would ever think 20 years ago this could happen?
Look at America, how great America is. We've had an African-American president for 8 years, and now we may get a woman president.
Yeah, it's showing a lot of
progress. And every other country almost has had women leaders now.
Yeah.
And we're the first country in North America and Europe that's had an African-American president.
Yeah. And I'm sure she's going to inspire other women to step forward and try to do what she did. Yeah, I don't know how good she'll be, but I mean, these are the choices that we're facing right now, and I think she's better.
Rick, once again, the time has flown by. Do you have anything to say to my little audience that goes into about 1 million homes in Westchester and throughout the world on YouTube?
Wow. That's just a lot of pressure here. Just pick up the Examiner newspaper if you want to know what's going on locally.
And keep local. Like
keep up
Rick
your fight,
Pezzullo
George.
has done 27 years. Once again, I presented a local media person, a print person, who's done the job for about the past 40 years, if you count his high school days. Thanks, Rick. Thanks for being on the George
anytime.
Show.